Good day, everyone. Once again, welcome to our course in Inferential Statistics. And this is our recap on our previous lesson on sampling techniques or sampling procedure. The reason why I am also discussing this is to rekindle what we have discussed previously. And I hope to give more emphasis on how to do and how to perform sampling procedure. So once again, I will course you through our procedure on how to determine the appropriate sampling technique for your research and arriving at the sample size you intended or is intended for your study. Okay. So again, we start with a question on our familiarity on the entire population. If you have the idea on how much your entire body or population is, then that is very much important on determining whether you need to gather everyone or simply parceled out a sample size out of this population. So if you don't have any idea on how much or the scope and breadth of your population, maybe the first question here is, will I just invite every available or approachable participant, or let's say accessible participant for my study? If yes, then your sampling technique will be convenience or accidental sampling. Okay? But if you said no, then we proceed to the next question, whether you need to portion, or let's say um, a portion of your population based on certain criteria or conditions. So while we go back here, if you said yes in the initial question, then we will proceed to this question. Is your participants the entire, or are your participants the entire population? So if the answer is yes, again, you're really not dealing with a specific sampling technique, but instead it will be a total enumeration or a census of your population. Now let's go back to this question. If you don't have the idea and your participants are not really the entire population, I just need a sample, or let's say I just need a target sample size, then again, going back here, I need a portion based on some criteria or condition. If you said no, then the next question is, I need a sample based on maybe who can refer to me, who is qualified based on my study. So if that is the specific question that is right, a right hit on your study, then the type of sampling will be a snowball sampling. Okay. But if your answer here is that there are really conditions or criteria I need to place, the criteria here is based on subject matter or characteristics or traits of a certain group of people, or simply the expertise of certain informant, then your sampling procedure will be judgment or purposive sampling. If your condition is simply a preset quota or a preset percentile or segment of a population, then your sampling will be quota sampling. Now, if your answer in the question about sample size is that you need a specific sample in your study, then the next question will be, how much margin of error can I afford? Again, the margin of error here is conversely or inversely reflective of the reliability or degree of reliability in your study. So you can declare maybe 1% margin of error up to maybe 10% margin of error, but conventional margin of error stands around 5%. So if you chose that, among the three that I have presented previously, you can choose, let's say, Slovin's formula, which is popularly used, or maybe locally used Calmorin and Calmorin, or Calmorin's formula on most of the studies and researches being conducted. But in this case, I have chosen Slovin's because this is much simpler, or sorry, a simpler for formula in comparison with the two. So the formula here has a legend of four. Let's say the n is simplified with sample size. Capital N will be, or the uppercase N will be the representative of the, sorry, the total population itself. E stands for the margin of error, and one is a constant. So if, for example, I have 1,000 population, and the question here is how much sample I need to get out of the 1,000 population, let's say 1,000 students, and my margin of error is 5%, then you see here, you need to place the population of the numerator, and then over beneath it will be the constant 1 plus, in parentheses, the 1,000, the total population, multiplied by the margin of error converted into decimal value square. So the next here will be squaring the margin of error. 0.05 times itself will become 0.0025. Five hundredths, or in this case, when you square that, it becomes 0.0025 uh, 10,000s. Okay, so then multiply it to the population, it becomes 2.5, and 1 plus 2.5 will become 3.5. 1,000 divided by 3.5 will result to 185.71. Now, we need to round this up, uh, so we could have the exact number of participants. Okay, again, it's rounding up, so you have on the upper bracket of 286. So that's the number of participants you need to survey, or you need to interview, or simply take as participants on your study if you have a total population of 1,000 and you have a declared margin of error of 5%. So remember, we have this simple random sampling and the probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Now, this is that set of sampling as I have enumerated. The first one will be simple random sampling, like one person per random number, or in any determinative pattern, which try to extract the number of samples you need. In the case of 24, let's say, population, you only need to take, let's say, or identify 8 out of the 24. Then you need to randomize it, maybe through fishbowl technique, or to Excel rand format or formula, or simply any way that you could extract randomly 8 participants out of this population. Now, in the case of the systematic random sampling, there's the word system here. You have a formula of determining the number of time, nth number of time, or nth person to be selected by using the formula of population divided by the sample size. Remember, you already computed for the sample size. If you have a total population of 24 and the sample size that you need to take from this population will be 8, then divided, you have uh, the result of 3, and every third person on the group will be selected. For example, the third one, the sixth, the ninth, the 12th, the 15th, 18th, 21st, and 24th. So in total, those are 8 people systematically sampled in random. The, the third one will be the stratified random sampling, and this is actually dividing your population in groups and randomly selecting portions out of each group. So each person in the group could be have an opportunity to be randomly selected. So, for example, you divided the group according to the color of their clothes. You have four sets of groups here, and each group you will be taking, let's say, two out of them to gather the eight prospective samples. So you take two from the violet group, two from the orange, two from the blue, and another two from the green group to constitute the eight. On the cluster random sampling, you are looking at the natural or the homogeneous clustering or the natural divisions of people. Let's say you have a set of people who are living in Asia and another set of people living in, let's say, in North America. So you'll be taking up four people from the Asian side and another four people from the Caucasian side, let's say. So you have an equal percentage from each cluster. You call this cluster random sampling. Okay. So out of the 24 population again, you'll be taking or extracting 8. So this is how you try to simply use the different sampling technique in arriving at your sample size or specific participants in your study. The last one that we have discussed previously was about multi-stage sampling technique, which employs the different sampling procedure that I have previously stipulated and enumerated, and devising it, using it to arrive at the specific participant of your study from a bigger perspective or a bigger population down to the layers or to the uh, gradation until you arrive at the specific participant. So I hope this recap on the sampling technique will help you on your understanding of the sampling procedures. So good luck, God bless, and break a leg. Until then.